Good evening. Welcome to the continuation of the March 24th Elmhurst Board of Education meeting. The board has been in session since 6 o'clock this evening in closed session to discuss negotiations, employment of employee, and the approval of the February 24th and March 10th, 2015 closed session minutes. We have 7 board members present, none absent. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is the very best part of any Board of Education meeting, student and staff recognition. First is the Illinois Music Educators Association Awards. Mr. Purnell.
Yes, it's our pleasure this evening to honor 28 middle school students from our 3 middle schools who have been honored by the Illinois Music Educational Association for their being part of the honor ensemble of students from Chicago Joliet region. And so with that, I'm going to turn the rest of it over to Brian Berg, who will do the honors, and then the Board of Education has a resolution.
Good evening, members of the board, district staff, and Elmhurst community. On behalf of the Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205, 6th through 8th grade music department, it is my honor and privilege to introduce our Illinois Music Educators Association Junior Festival participants for 2014-2015. If I could I have the students who are here to receive this honor go ahead and come up here and stand in a semicircle facing the audience, please.
Board members don't bite. They'll be okay. You can just stand. Don't be scared.
In a minute, you'll get to learn the line and how the handshaking line works. All right. I would like to begin this evening by acknowledging the 6th through 8th grade music staff for their hard work with our music students. It is through their daily efforts that we're able to help students learn and sing and play instruments and prepare for opportunities such as the ILMEA Junior Festival. Our staff is at Bryan, Jessica Tadavosian, Felicia Jakrovic, Ellen Gary, Jeanette Sebbing, and Brian Berg. At Churchville, Barbara Scott, Cindy Krause, and Lindsay Sickinger. And at Sandburg, Heather Knight, Ricardo Vasquez, Stacy Savitieri, John Gaunt, and Kim Lambert-Hack. Each year, the Illinois Music Educators Association hosts the Junior Festival for middle school music students who excel in voice, woodwind, brass, string, and percussion instruments. Students audition to participate in the festival band, the orchestra, the choir, or the jazz band. And those students who are selected wake up early on a Saturday, travel to the festival site, and spend a full morning and afternoon rehearsing together in one of these 4 ensembles under the direction of a distinguished conductor, and then present a joint concert in the afternoon. ILMEA hosts junior festivals in 9 separate geographical regions of the state. Prior to the auditions, students from our District 205 music programs, with assistance from our district music staff, local private teachers, parents, and other members of the community, practice diligently to prepare and refine their audition pieces and perform to the best of their ability. On October 4th of last year, 60 of our District 205 students, along with approximately 1,000 other students from across the Southwest Joliet, Chicago region, traveled to Homewood to audition for the opportunity to perform in one of the ILMEA District 1 Junior Festival ensembles. All District 205 students who seized this extra opportunity to practice, audition, and learn are to be commended for their efforts. The festival was held on Saturday, November 8, 2014 at Lockport Township High School in Lockport, Illinois. The 3 ensembles presented an outstanding joint performance in the early evening for a capacity audience in the gym. The District 1 Jazz Band presented a performance the following week. I'm very proud to present the following 28 students who were selected into the ILMEA Region 1 Junior Festival Honor Band, Orchestra, Choir, and Jazz Band from District 205. From Bryan, Audrey Fothery, Alyssa Irby, Sienna Olson, Ben Pavlik, Aaron Lee, Evelyn Nudera, Najette Schregel, Maggie Schroeder, Ruby Schwan, Mason Lampa, and Ben Pavlik again for the jazz band a week later. From Churchville, Lily Martinez, Eddie Ryan, Katie Sanchez, Julian Roble, Natalie Crowder, Calvin Carta, Edgar Roman, and Eddie Ryan, again in the jazz band. From Sandburg, Ryan Keniff, Lauren Hund, Emily Dow, Rylan Johnson, Carlene Stanton, Maya Toffler, David Hansen, Matthew Hauser, Isabella Nicolai, Julie Roberts, and Amy Roberts. And now, stay here and the board will recognize you as well.
Don't you leave either. This is such a wonderful opportunity and honor. And we especially want to honor our students and the parents, because we know that without the parent sacrifice, these students don't get all the opportunities that are afforded to them and don't get a chance to excel. So thank you first and foremost to our parents, and also good job, great job, students. But that's not what the official proclamation says. The official proclamation says, whereas the Illinois Music Educators Association, ILMEA, Junior Festival held on November 8, 2014, recognizes middle school students for their musical accomplishments, and whereas this program encourages excellence on the part of individual students and encourages further music study and artistry, and whereas the following Elmhurst District 205 middle school students were selected to play in an honor ensemble along with some of the most accomplished student musicians in the region. Bryan Middle School, band, Audrey Fothery, trumpet, Alyssa Irby, clarinet, Sienna Olson, French horn, Ben Pavlik, French horn, chorus, Aaron Lee, alto voice, Evelyn Nudera, alto voice, orchestra, Najette Schrader, violin, Margaret Schroeder, violin, Ruby Schwan, cello, and from Churchville Middle School, the band, Lily Martinez, clarinet, Edward Ryan, trombone, Katia Sanchez, euphonium, chorus, Natalie Crowder, soprano voice, orchestra, Julian Roble, cello, and from Sandburg Middle School, band, Ryan Caniff, alto sax, Lauren Hund, flute, chorus, David Hansen, tenor voice, Matthew Hauser, tenor voice, Isabella Nicoli, soprano voice, Julie Roberts, soprano voice, Amy Roberts, alto voice, orchestra, Emily Dow, cello, Ryan Johnson, viola, Carlene Stanton, viola, Maya Toffler, violin, and whereas Bryan Middle School students Mason Lampa, drum set, and Ben Pavlik, guitar, Churchville Middle School students Calvin Carter, trumpet, Edgar Roman, tenor sax, and Edward Ryan, trombone, were selected to play in the Jazz Festival held on November 15th at Lincoln Way North High School in Frankfort. And we're almost there. Whereas these accomplishments bring pride and prestige to Bryan, Churchville, and Sandburg Middle School, to District 205, to their parents, and to the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education and Administration of Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205 express congratulations to these students, their parents, their music teachers for this outstanding accomplishment. Now, this is how it works. I'm going to ask if everyone would kind of turn around and start here and shake your hand, and I am going to hand each of you a folder, and I'm going to give the extra folders, if you wouldn't mind. All right, so thank you very much. Thank you.
It's our pleasure tonight to not only honor students, but we have an outstanding educator who we want to honor tonight. She is the 3M Outstanding Economic Educator Award winner for the state of Illinois, and Diana Smith is here to do the honors, and it's great to have this honoree with us. This happened in October, and then Jessica
Was a little busy.
was a little busy. As a matter of fact, she got the award. I ran over to tell her congratulations. She was already gone on maternity leave, so it's nice to have her back. So. Yeah, not that.
Literally, it was just within days of the award. So it's my pleasure to introduce Jessica Weldon, most importantly to introduce Connor Weldon, who's here with his mother as well. And Jessica is the recipient of the 3M Outstanding High School Educator Award. And this past October, as you mentioned, Mr. Pernod, she barely made it to the award ceremony. I had the honor to go with her as her guest at a luncheon at the Union League Club downtown. And I think you're aware that Econ Illinois is a statewide nonprofit organization whose mission it is to promote economics education. And sponsors include NIU and BMO Harris, Advantage Futures, and the Federal Reserve. And I know you will speak a little bit about her tonight. I'm also hoping that she'll speak for just a moment to introduce herself. But I thought you should also know that she's our division chair for research and social sciences. She replaced Charles Avando. She is working with the core chairs at York to build a set of research skills for all of our students before they graduate to be college ready. She's also the head of our grading task force, where she is working with teachers to establish clear and consistent grading policies and practices. She is an instructional leader. First and foremost, she is a great teacher, and she is a national board certified teacher. She teaches AP micro and macroeconomics. She has built the program to what it is today. Her students every single year average at least a 4 or higher on the AP test. But she got some great news about a group of students that she's working with, and I thought it'd be great for her to share the news with you. The timing is perfect. So Jessica Weldon. And Connor.
Which hopefully he'll let me speak right now. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, and the recognition is always very much appreciated, and humbled to be here for such things. But today, as Diana mentioned, today we did get information that we have a team again this year that placed second in the state out of over 140 plus teams in Econ Challenge. So that means we'll be going down to the state competition to actually then really go through that title. So last year, at this point, we had placed 9th out of all the teams and went down and then finished second in the state. And now we're going into the state competition and ranked second to IMSA. So we'll be hoping to compete and to come home with the championship this year. And that's eligible for students that are in the AP courses. And I think even more importantly than the placement, last year we had 12 students participate. This year we had 32 participate. And the club in general has grown to 75, where it started out when I first started teaching here with 6 students who came up and said, hey, what do you think about doing a club? And I thought, you want to do more of this? You want to learn more economics? They feel like this is difficult enough. And they really were like, yeah, what can we do? What can we do? And so it's really, really grown through competitions, Fed Challenge, Econ Challenge, Stock Market Game, and on from there. So I love that it's the students driving it and that they're so interested in it. And they really want to experience that real-world application. A few of you have participated, actually, 3 of you have participated in the Econ Career Fair that I do each year. And so just all of the support, the board support that we can get in the programs, this program, all of our programs is really, really fundamental for the students. Professional development opportunities that I've been able to pursue have allowed me to learn about all these things. I'm not from Chicago. I'm not from Illinois originally. I come from Ohio, and so I wasn't aware. When I first started, I wasn't aware of all of these competitions. It's not like I grew up going to them. So I think it's really important for us then, as leaders, as Diana was talking about, to continuously think about those opportunities and by providing those professional development opportunities, our students then have so many more opportunities. So I appreciate it, and I hope your sons and daughters that have participated are really learning a lot from it. So thank you very much.
Jessica, Connor, don't go anywhere. Stick around for one more minute. No, I have to say, economics is a subject that's near and dear to my heart. It's one of those subjects that I think creates better voters. The more informed our students are, our citizenry is about economics, I think the better election decisions that those people make. So, I am thrilled that economics is taught so well in our district, in our high school. So thank you. So I have a proclamation to read that I think tells a great story. Whereas Econ, Illinois, established in 1951 and formerly known as the Illinois Council on Economic Education, is a partnership of leaders from business, labor, agriculture, education, and government dedicated to increasing economic literacy in Illinois. And whereas for the past 16 years, the 3M Company and Econ, Illinois have sponsored the Illinois Educator Awards, acknowledging teachers of grades K through 12 for their creativity and commitment to the instruction of economics. And whereas 3M Outstanding Economic Educator Award winners are selected based upon their long-standing history of involvement in the field of economic education and their excellence in teaching economics. And whereas on October 21st, 2014, at the Union League Club of Chicago, York Community High School economics teacher Jessica Weldon was honored as one of the 2 Outstanding Economic Educator Award winners. And whereas, according to Econ, Illinois, Ms. Weldon has a rich understanding of economics and has used her passion and expertise to start an economics club at the school, which has grown in the past 4 years from initial 8 members to 75 students. The club actively participates in the Stock Market Game program, which provides educational direction in saving and investing. This past year, her students earned first and second place in the region, with student teams creating simulated portfolios that outperformed others competing in the same region of Illinois. And whereas, we're almost there, by creating a partnership with the Chicago Council for Global Affairs, holding an annual economics career fair, placing first at the Federal Reserve Challenge and second place at the State Econ Challenge competition, as well as competing this year in the Euro Challenge competition, Jessica Weldon has established opportunities for her students to understand key economic concepts and the complex realities faced by policymakers. And whereas this accomplishment brings pride and prestige to Elmhurst Community Unit District 205, York Community High School, and to our community. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education and Administration of Elmhurst Community Unit District 205 express deep appreciation and congratulations to Jessica Weldon for her outstanding accomplishments. We're going to have just a little break so people can get on with their evenings. Next on our agenda is public comments. I don't have any blue public comment cards up here, but is there anyone in the audience that came here to speak to the board tonight? Okay, hearing none. Next on our agenda is superintendent's communication. Mr. Purnell.
Yes, our first item is just 2 Freedom of Information requests that we have received since our last board meeting. One requesting specific test results, which we did grant, and one requesting collective bargaining information, which was also granted.
Next, I'll ask our superintendent search firm, the representatives from BWP, who are here tonight to present. They have done an extensive survey of the board, the administration, the faculty, and our community, to ask them what collectively they're looking for in a new superintendent. So, with that, can I ask Joe and your entire team to come on up? Yeah. Oh, unfortunately, we can't make this as cozy as usual. Yeah, we. Thank you for coming this evening, by the way.
We're glad to be here. This was a fun thing the last time we were here, trying to rotate the red lighted speakerphone so that we tend to want to talk and use our hands and all that. We'll do our best tonight to be into the speakerphone.
I have copies for everyone else. I don't know the best way to distribute these, so everyone can follow along. I can put them here, and if you want to come up and get a copy, you can follow along with us.
Everyone who's interested.
Okay.
Well, thanks for having us back, and we're very excited to be here. We really have three things we'd like to cover tonight. We'd like to give you the results of the electronic survey that we took. We'd also like to share with you summaries of the focus group discussions that we had. And then our third point of business is to take you a little bit of an update of where we are with the process and talk about some dates in the future. Okay. So the important first step in the search process is to do an audit of the entire Elmhurst community. And to do this, we attacked it from two different means. One was an electronic survey that all staff members and community members and parents had access to, and we had a standard survey format. The other way was a little more personable. We were able to come in and meet with small groups of key stakeholder groups in the community. We all took notes and we gathered this information together. So the report that I gave you is a summary. First, we're going to go through the survey, and then we're going to go through the compilation of the focus groups. And what's really neat, Mark and Ann and I were talking about it, is there was so much continuity between what the survey said and what different focus groups said. Sometimes you get very different kind of points of view, but there's a lot of consistency in this community, and we were able to have a very clear profile emerge. So if I could work off, to make this easy, I know you have a busy night and we're going to try to take as little time as possible. So I'm going to work for the survey off of page number 2. It's an executive summary of the survey. The pages after that, with all the nice colors and charts, those you can look at your own time, and you could see in a little bit more detail if you'd like. But I thought to make it easy, I'd work through the executive summary. So 221 people responded to the survey. To be honest, that was a little bit low. We thought in a district this size that might be a little bit higher, but we think it's a nice representative group that did choose to go on there and give us their opinions. 80% of those folks live right here in the community. If you're wondering, well, why would someone not in our community take the survey? Don't forget we offered it to your teachers as well and your staff members. And some of your staff members live in the community, so they represented multiple groups. 59% of the respondents have children in the district, and that's pretty typical. Your parents are eager to share their views. So in the survey, as well as in the focus groups, we mainly asked 3 questions. First, we want to know what are the strengths of the district as you perceive them, because the new superintendent is going to want to build from strength. Then we ask what is any areas of concern, challenge, into the future, so that the new person also knows what issues face him or her. Then the third thing we ask are the skills and characteristics. And those three questions build a really nice profile. So from the survey, we'll start with the positive, strengths of the district, according to the survey participants. Number one was excellent teachers and staff, the academic achievement of the students who come to this district, supportive parents and community. People kind of view those as one and the same. And the different educational options and programs and the balance between academics and fine arts. It's highly valued in your community. If you wanted to see some of the other topics that came up and their percentages, that's on page 5. The next thing that we looked at was the issues or concerns facing the district. The first one, and this one was number one by quite a margin, was finance. It was very unusual in that when Ann and Mark and I did the focus groups, that did not come up. It came up, but not in such a powerful way. So this was one area there was quite a disconnect between the focus groups and the survey. But on the survey, it was clearly was number one, followed by curriculum. And of course, on the survey, you don't know what they mean. You don't know exactly what that area means. They could mean that it's just something that you have to keep at and keep strong. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a problem with it. Personnel, I'm sure they mean getting the best people to come here and keeping them here. Educational options and programs, which is funny because that was a strength in the question before.
It's
and
not
then,
unusual to see things on more than one
Yeah,
list.
thanks,
So
you guys.
we have that happen frequently.
And then instruction/technology. A close sixth was facilities, by the way, and other items that came up on this question you can look at on the chart on page 10.
Yeah, if you look at the data on the chart, it's going to show you there are quite a few other areas that
Right.
what we'll do is we're going to share with the candidate pool, the people that we interview, what these are to try and match some of their skill sets. So finance basically shows up in every search we do as an issue. I think it's a characteristic of the state of working and being a school district in the state of Illinois. Everyone's uncertain as to where their finances are going to be. So that's not an unusual response.
Then finally, there was a couple of ways we asked about the characteristics. One was skills, and the other was more characteristic and traits. So the skills that came out was leadership, of course, communication. In addition to leadership and communication, you have to be a good manager too, keep everything rolling. Financial again, and key interpersonal skills, which is obviously also related to communication. Characteristics, good decision maker and problem solver. Integrity and trust. Commitment to the community. Child-centered, which is always really great to have people say. And visionary. Collaborative was the sixth one on the chart, and there are others, as Mark mentioned, and collaborative, that all kind of goes together. Then other important factors, which is kind of our catch-all, very interesting. Experience in strategic planning came up. Experience as a superintendent with a proven record of success. That kind of track record was important to people. Experience in instruction. And being a classroom teacher meant a lot to the participants of the survey.
You have to qualify that with a large percentage of respondents that were teachers. And typically we see this when we do have large teacher percentages, we see that factor really elevated, because I think teachers really believe that you have to have been a teacher and experienced it to be successful as a leader. Whether that's true or not, sometimes that all works its way out in the end, but it's typical to see this kind of thing.
As powerful and important as the survey is, I personally, though, like to get in there with these focus groups and talk to people, because Ann and Mark and I were able to meet, connect, and probe with people, ask follow-up questions. So we actually think we got an even deeper picture when we conducted these focus groups. What I'd like to do for everybody following along, if you could literally turn to the very last page, page 17. We want to go backward a little bit. I'll tell you why. We met with district administrators, we met with principals, support staff, teachers at elementary level, teachers at the high school level. We met with each board member separately. Parents weighed in. They had met privately and shared their input. And we met with the community foundation. So these were all of the subgroups that we met with. I've got a summary, and we're going to go through just a few highlights of each group. But what was really interesting for me as we were analyzing this information is the great consistency among the focus groups as to what was important. And I'm not able to do this in all searches, but we were actually able to do what you have here on the last page and actually put all the groups together. And this is the profile that emerged. And not that every single one was talked about with the exact same passion, but this is a synthesis of all the focus groups. So we wanted to start there, and then Mark and Ann and I will go back and just highlight a few differences and special things that came out of each group. But overall, when we put the information together, here is what the people we spoke to said were your strengths. Kind of in the back of your mind, you should be comparing that to the survey too. There's a lot of consistency back there. So, supportive community that highly values education. Talented, dedicated teachers, administrators, support staff. Strong children first philosophy that flows from the Board of Ed down through the entire organization. By the way, you should be really proud of that one. Very proud. That one does not always come up for us in our searches. The unit district structure, the actual structure of going from preschool all the way up to high school, is viewed as a strength to build from. And again, this idea of a balanced curriculum with the academic curricula balanced with fine arts and lots of options for kids. So we thought there was a great deal of consistency among the focus groups and with the survey. What came out as the issues that your next superintendent is going to want to deal with. K-12 articulation and communication, vertical. This came up quite a bit. Even though you're a unit district, you still face the same challenges that separate elementary and high school districts in Illinois face. And that is this need for really good communication. What do we do here at elementary? How do we prepare them for middle? How does the middle prepare them for high school? And are we talking to each other the way we should? A great deal of turnover in staff at all levels. Big concern. Our focus groups talked about that as being a real momentum changer for the district. Trust issues among the board, teachers, and administration. I know you're negotiating right now, so sometimes that comes out. Systems and procedures need to be established for the efficiency of operation. District-wide processes and procedures being unified, I think, was the gist there. Having some discord between north and south sides of town that sometimes spills into the schools. That's your diversity issue. Came up in just about every group we talked about.
Especially the kids, which
Yeah.
we'll get to in a
Didn't
minute.
hear it at all.
Yeah.
So,
Stress and morale issues with teachers and administrators. Then the profile, which is so helpful to us as we head into our interviewing. Strong communication, listening, and collaboration skills. Visible, approachable, hands-on. People want somebody that is out and about and knows their name and talks to them. Articulates a clear vision and focus. A lot of people use the term big picture, big thinker. High integrity and team building. Forward-thinking, creative, dynamic problem solver. Strong, decisive, able to say no when needed. and experienced leader from a district of similar size and curriculum. So those were the profile and the summaries. Now if we could go back, and we'll wrap this up by just highlighting, we're not going to take you point by point, but if you could go back to page 12, we'll just highlight a couple of points that came up, and this is something you can look at a little bit later when you have more time. But the district administration, we're each going to talk about the groups we spoke to. I spoke to the district administrator, and pretty consistent with what came out at the end. The only thing that I thought stood out a little bit for them is they talked about the administration offices being leanly staffed, and I think that is a concern you've heard before. They also talked about being able to establish clear and efficient systems. That whole idea of district-wide efficiency and clear systems came up very strongly in that group. And I think you did the principals.
I had the principals. I had a very nice large group of principals. I think nearly every principal and assistant principal in the district was there. There were probably a couple who had a conflict, but it was a nice large group in attendance. And I guess a couple of things that stood out to me when we looked at challenges that they brought out. So if you want to turn to the next page, they again talked about diversity and the desire to want to acknowledge and really do a lot of celebrating of the diversity, thinking this is a good thing and they'd like to take advantage of the different things that lends the district. Then, like all focus groups, they felt like there was a great deal of responsibility and pressure on administrators. So I think we could take that group by group, and they all feel that way, but it tells you a little bit about some of the morale that Joe mentioned in our summary. And then the last one, too, that's on the principal's mind, because they're so close to the teachers, is the negotiations and union issues. So those were some of the things that were a little bit unique to that group. The teachers we had in 2 or 3 different groups. I think Mark's going to talk about that.
Yeah, pretty much they're the things we heard from the teaching staff, and we combined 3 or 4 different meetings with teachers together. Really are reflected in some of the characteristics that they're looking for in a new superintendent. Someone who's experienced in facilities. The groups that I met with met in the auditorium at Field, and it was overflowing with lots of other things, and people were saying we're going to run out of space. I guess the new housing being built down the street was concerning them. So that was on the mind of several of the people that were with us. So it maybe took on a bigger role than necessary. Of an articulate, forward-thinking person who will be hands-on, visible, and in the schools. And that came out really clear. Everybody likes to see the boss acknowledge themselves. So those were real critical pieces. The strengths were pretty consistent with everybody with everything we've showed you before, talking about the community, the staff, the academic opportunities. Those are consistent with what we've said to you before. The challenges, again, consistent with what you've heard. High turnover rate. I heard a little bit about the stress of park, and this was before all the park assessment came in and all the fervor that was generated around testing time. So that was translated a little into some of the teachers' anxiety. But all in all, it was a pleasant experience because we were just there to listen. And these are kinds of things, and a long list of things that your teachers are really looking for in a new leader. The characteristics piece, especially.
I did the support staff. I should say, too, that I neglected to mention this, but some of the principals did talk about facilities as well. I know that there's some buildings that they're certainly feeling are in some need of some expansion or repairs, and the principals did mention that, too.
In need of attention.
Attention, that's a good way to put it. I also worked with the support staff. Had a nice turnout in this group as well. I think 20-plus people attended this meeting. And some of the unique things they said when we talked about strengths were that the reputation the high school has with the colleges, that it has a strong reputation, the kids do well, and that's recognized by their college applications. Then they also said They have a strong school board with student-first attitudes. And we like to bring this out because we don't, as Joe had mentioned earlier, we don't always hear that. So I know you don't get that many compliments. So when we hear one, we like to share it with you. Some of the issues and challenges that they mentioned, they did talk about PARA, the new evaluation program, and they also talked about technology training, recognizing that there's a fair amount of technology in the school, but wanting to have a little bit more opportunity to be trained on it. You had the kids, right?
Yeah, no offense to all the wonderful adults we met, but my absolute favorite group was when I got a chance to meet with these high school students. What a bright, articulate, delightful group of kids I had. I could have spent the afternoon with them. And they were quite candid and just very open and honest. And we should probably listen to kids more than we do. That's my view. They talked in strengths, they talked a lot about their teachers. And I made sure that I told the teachers that when I met with the teacher group. It was so impressive to hear kids saying things like, the teachers here go, this is their words, go above and beyond the call of duty. They give up their lunch periods, they meet us after school, if anybody needs extra help. And they were even using educational words like they differentiate instruction for us if some of us need to learn in different ways. It was unbelievable. So they really appreciate their teachers. And they liked the program. They loved the electives and the balance. They too talked about balance, how important the extracurriculars were, and you didn't have to be a superstar to find something that you could be good at here and participate. So they hit it right on. They were very honest in what could be improved. They targeted the English department, and I listened. And the principal of the school was there with us. And I want to just give her kudos. I never met her, I don't know her, but the second that focus group was over, or I was done with my part, she went and got the department chair of the English department, brought her in, and had the kids talk even more about what was on their mind. So that was just really impressive. She took that moment and the kids' candor and turned it into a positive. The kids spoke the most openly and honestly about the socioeconomic and diversity issues, while adults sometimes couched that a little bit like north-south. They were very diplomatic. The kids said, there's diversity and socioeconomic issues here, and sometimes there's stereotypes. And when we come to high school, you hear things like, oh, you must be from this school. But what was really cool is they said, that goes away real fast. Once we get to high school, we're all one. So that was honesty and a bit of optimism. So I thought that was great. And then they looked for the same kinds of things in their superintendent that everybody else did. Okay?
You want to do the foundation?
You want to do the foundation? Okay.
We both did this one together. It's a good group.
The foundation, all three members of the foundation that were able to join us, they were a very active group, I hear, in the community, and they had lots of opinions. We'll summarize them quickly. Again, the strengths were the strong, dedicated group of teachers. If you noticed, throughout this whole report, you kept seeing that over and over again. So when you start seeing those kinds of things, you know the trend isn't just one group or another. Options and choices for students, you've heard that again. They're very, very positive about that. The curriculum, neighborhood schools, this is the first time that came up in the conversations that I had. And again, the diversity in the community. You want to help?
Yeah, I do want to help. One of the things they talked about, and I know this has been something that everybody has struggled with a little bit. When we got to challenges, they talked about just the disparity among the PTA groups and how do you go about addressing that and balancing out some of the things that extra groups can offer to the children. So they really actually spent a lot of time on that, and probably was the thing that separated their groups from some of the others that we had talked to. When it comes to characteristics, of the superintendent. They're very interested in finding somebody who supports foundations and alternative funding.
And can find alternative
Yeah.
sources of
They
revenue.
seem like a really hardworking group of people, really dedicated to doing that. So Mark and I talked to them. We had a good time learning from them. Good.
And it's a supportive third-party group that's part of your school system one way or another. And not every place has a foundation that is so dedicated to helping within the district. So it's something that I think it's
Yeah.
great that you gave them the opportunity to have a separate subgroup, because I think they felt honored by that.
Yeah, and they, as I said, they were great. We learned a lot from that group. The one thing we haven't mentioned, and I would think we would be neglectful if we didn't, all of the groups we talked to really were they're going to give us a list of issues and characteristics, but I think the thing that struck me in every group I talked to also was that they said it's been a good 4 years, and there's been a lot of progress and a lot of good things happening in the district. So I didn't want to leave without mentioning that, because I know the people in this room are responsible for that. We, again, want to hand out that compliment.
PTA,
PTA was, the PTA actually,
you were, that you.
would they send us our comments?
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
We didn't have an opportunity to actually meet with them because they meet so often that they got together themselves and put together some of their ideas. That's why you'll see it in a little different format than the other group. But we would have been happy to have gone, but understood that they did not want an extra meeting to have to attend, and took on that initiative themselves. Some of the characteristics, as I said, a little different format, but you can see that what they're looking for that's a little different: research-based decision-making, a clear vision, which we've talked about before, strong hiring skills, and I think that kind of parallels the turnover that has been a part of what's been going on the last several years. A trust builder, a problem solver, knowledge of the preschool through high school environment. So some of the similar things came out there. And last but not least, the Board of Education. We'll probably do this
You
one
got
together.
several kudos along the way, so we always like to tell, it doesn't always happen. So we like to tell boards
We do.
when they're made, when comments are made in a positive light about a Board of Education, you should feel honored. And then it comes to you, the Board of Education's group. And all three of us had the opportunity to interview individual board members. And what Joe was able to do is compile all that into this one section. But it is far from the only comments that we had from you as board members. So you may not see word for word your comment, but we tried our best to compile these things so that we get the gender of the discussion. And I think you'll see that. The strengths, again, community involvement, focus on the child. You're seeing these things that yourselves as board members are saying that all the other groups are saying. So there's a lot of consistency. High quality teachers and support staff. The new administrative team, I know you're very proud of bringing in a lot of new faces, and strong and balanced curriculum and curricular options for many students. And that could be looked at in a lot of different ways. The issues and challenges, a long-range vision. You've heard that through the night tonight, and a strategic plan. And I think what better time to do that is when you bring a new leader in and bring all of you
one ready to go, yeah.
your staff and constituencies together. Timing is great. Morale and trust within the district has improved, but obviously you can always improve it. You can never have it perfect. High expectations, but a limited budget. I love that term. That is a great term because every district has high expectations and every district has budget limitations. So just join everybody else. Difficult negotiations and a new teacher contract implementation, it depends. You know, we don't know how your negotiations are going. As Joe alluded to earlier, you're in the middle of that. That should not impact the ability of the new superintendent to do his or her job. But it would be nice to have that all done by the time they started. And there is some discord between the north and south sides of town. I didn't hear that in any of the groups that I was in, but obviously my two colleagues did. And so that's something to let this new person know that they may have to work on that. And it could be part of the goal system, you name it. So those pieces are all there. The characteristics of the new superintendent or the qualities that you'd like to see, clear vision and big picture outlook, always important. Strong communicator, consistently through all the comments, communication or communicator comes through. Visible, approachable, and hands-on. If a superintendent doesn't do those kinds of things, he or she won't stay in their job long. Experienced leader from a district of similar size and structure, you'd like it. That's no guarantee that you can find it, but what you can find is someone with strong leadership skills that regardless of what type of district they're in, they can transfer those leadership skills and lead Elmhurst District 205. So you want those strong leadership skills. Participates in community organization and activities. That's in the code of superintendents. If you don't like doing that, then don't be a superintendent. And you need to build trust with all groups. The new
think that's
person
in the
needs to
code
build
too,
trust.
right?
That's in the code too. And this is an unwritten code, by the way. Someone needs to be inspiring, innovative, child-centered, and forward-thinking. That captures so many of the conversations that we had. So those are just some of the characteristics that you, the 7 members of the Board of Education, have exchanged with us, and here is the results of that little discussion. So probably not a lot of surprises.
You know, we spend so many hours doing this, it's hard to get it down to a 20-minute report, but if you have any questions on any of these, we'd be glad to work
Sorry,
with
we've
them.
overshot our time, but
So it's okay.
And it
It's
all
very
comes
helpful.
back then to that final page, which is the summary of all of it. And just back to square one, as far as to wrap this portion up, we now have a clear picture, and we've been using it with our recruitment, and we're going to be using it even more intently as we start our interviewing process in 2 days. So we will be using this profile to craft our questions and to evaluate candidates, and you should be doing the same when you start your interviewing. So very important process. It went real well.
it's one of the tools that you'll have when we come back in a couple of weeks. We're going to go over the calendar again, just to refresh everyone's mind. And there are some dates we want to push you towards getting those on your own calendars. But when you come down to the end, you'll have 3 or 4 tools to use and assist you in actually sorting the candidates. They're all good candidates. You're only going to see people that are good. But who's the best match, that's up to you to determine. And so, as Joe just said, this profile piece is an important one that you will use as you sort the candidates' answers and what they bring to the table. Then there are a couple other things that we're going to give you later that will even further help you in sorting the candidates through. So right now, by the way, we didn't ask if there were any questions, and we should give you.
We forgot to pause.
We're mindful of the time. We know you have a long night, and we don't want.
We would be happy to answer any question that you might have, or if one comes up later.
And then we want to go over the calendar.
That's okay about the timelines. We ignore them, you can too.
Well, we're pretty.
Anything at this point.
Thanks, Jim.
I include myself in that. All right.
Thanks for admitting that.
So at this point, does anybody have any questions? All right. So, yeah, go ahead, Emily.
Well, and maybe you're getting to this, but the deadline for applicants to submit their applications, that's come to an end, right? Did you-
It was Friday.
Can you, oh, you're going to talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just curious about it.
Sure.
Got it.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So
Let's go over our calendar
Continue.
again. So you have 2 pages. Most of the first page we've blown through, actually all of it. And I think the bottom line is the electronic survey ends and all the data calculated on the 4th. The results have been presented to you tonight. On the 21st, we cut off applications, but we really don't. What we do is
Be a good candidate.
we won't close the door on somebody that comes in at the last minute. So we keep that application active. It's still active. And there may be somebody that we'd want to tap on the shoulder at the last minute and say, go in and complete that application. We'd still want to interview you. So it's not absolute, but if we didn't have some type of a timeline, people would procrastinate and we may lose the right kind of person. Although most of the people that you're going to see and that we'll interview have been recruited by us and talked to by us rather than a response to a posting. So the 24th, we're here tonight giving you the leadership profile, and I hope you will use that, and I hope you enjoy reading the detail. we only gave you a surface piece. On the 26th, which is this Thursday, we're booked all day, and we're going to be interviewing a whole lot of folks. And these are people that we've pre-screened. So typically what happens is Ann, Joe, and I will screen the applications, and then we'll meet, or we do this by email, as to ranking the candidates as to who we want in the interview pool. It's not ranking them as to who's strongest or weakest. It's who do we feel we need to interview? And we're pretty consistent. I think we're probably almost 100%
We always do it
consistent,
independently and then compare.
and then merge them together. So we've done that, and on Thursday, we're going to meet a dozen people. And so it's going to be very interesting. We'll see whether the paper and the person is a good match, and whether the paper matches what our expectations are using your profile. The week of the 31st, we're going to then do reference checks on the 5 to 6 people that we think we would like to present to you, barring any surprises in reference checking or any background checks that we find something that is questionable.
I should mention here that when he says that, we've already done a lot of preliminary reference checking on all these candidates, so we'll get a little more formal on it when we get down to 5 or 6.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the 8th, we will be back to you on the 8th of April, and we will then present a little workshop, a mini workshop. And at that time, we're going to introduce the 5 or 6 candidates. We're going to give you all their backup information. We're going to give you a personnel file for each of them. We're going to give you some sample questions to choose from, but we're going to encourage you to also have your own. We're going to give you scoring rubrics so that you can score the candidate interviews and compare the interviews. And then we're going to give you some little bits of advice. Don't say this, don't ask this, stay out of trouble. We have an attorney on the board?
Yes.
2, right? 2, yeah. All right, we're safe. We're safe. Okay, we take that off our shoulders. But we want to keep you in a position that everything's above board and put a lot of pressure on our 2 attorneys. And from there, then we're back into your hands, because if you look on 4/13 and 4/18, that's your first round of interviews. You've all cleared your calendar time for that. From there, you're going to come back with 2 finalists we're hoping for, and we're assuming. That means you need to clear some more dates, and I'm not sure that we heard what those dates are, if you've done those or not, for the follow-up interviews, which means the 2 final candidates, you've chosen a transparent search. Transparent search indicates the 2 final candidates will come and spend time in the district. They will be chaperoned by 2 board members and introduced in different buildings. They're looking at you too, remember that. And then concluding with that is dinner and a second interview. So those 2 dates are really critical, and you want to get them as quickly as possible after the 18th. We've seen some districts do them immediately the next days. We pre-condition the candidates and tell them, save those dates, you may be one of the finalists, or whatever works on your calendars. We're just saying we want to keep the momentum going. It's important to keep that going. First of all, you need to have the momentum. And secondly, you don't want anybody to sit around for a week and rethink. If they're committed, you want to capture that commitment. So it's towards the end of the year. You don't want them to think, okay, it's too late to leave my district. We're going to go over all that with them. So we're going to get a commitment right up front. But yet, you want to make sure, and you want to be absolutely sure, that you have these 2 finalists committed to District 205. So that's why, Jim, I guess I'd say if you can get those 2 dates and wrap those up, then, the only thing you'll need is some time at the second interview, the second one of the 2-day interviews, to make your decision. And that's usually done the evening of the second interview. After the dinner, the board stays. You're in a closed environment. You'll get a private room somewhere, and you'll decide who it is that you would like to move forward. So it's an aggressive timeline. If spring break weren't in the middle, it'd be pushed up at least a week or two. And we had a couple people on spring break that we had to make some adjustments, yeah. We're shooting for you being done by the end of April.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Emily, go ahead.
Oh, so my original question was going to be about the number of applicants or the quantity, quality. Is it about what you were expecting, what you usually see? Can you talk about that just a little bit?
31, right, Joe?
31 as of last, we looked. That's about average, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah, right now, yeah, that's definitely about average. And a lot of seated superintendents.
Lots of experience. We have 12 good people we're bringing in, and we're excited to hopefully find 6 for you to look at.
We can't say that all 31 have the right experience for Elmhurst District 205. That would be a fallacy. Some have applied, but they had really, no business applying. They just thought, oh, this looks like a good job, so I'll throw in for it. But when you start looking at the profile, there's no match there. 5th grade teacher decides, I want to be a superintendent, so they apply. Yeah. We're nice. We respond to everybody in the same way. Everyone who applies gets a professional letter from us at the conclusion of the search, telling them, thanking them for their application, telling them who was selected, and a little background on the person who was selected. And we represent you, so we want it to be professional. So no one's totally left in the dark at the end of the process.
11 of the 12 people we're bringing in Thursday are seated superintendents.
Yeah, I think we heard in the profile, there was a lot of comment about experience as a superintendent.
Anything else?
Anything else? Something we need to talk about. Chris, go ahead.
Just two questions. Out of 31, how many were identified by you and how many applied?
Good question.
More than half.
More than half.
More than half we
Yeah.
personally recruited.
Excellent.
All 3 of us.
Excellent. And then would it be possible, when you get down to the 5 or 6, to talk about the 5 or 6 that didn't make the cut? Not who they are, but
Right.
just kind of the reasons why they were in or out, and how you kind of looked at that and why they got
That's
why they got
important.
excluded.
Be
I'm just
happy to.
just curious about that. Not exactly who it is, but
Yeah.
Right.
That's a
Okay.
good question, because all the 11 we're going to talk to are really good people.
Right.
And successful people, but, we'll have to sort through and decide which are the best.
yeah. How did you make that decision?
Yeah.
Would be helpful.
And we can have that discussion because we'll be in a closed session with you.
Right.
It's very difficult to talk about personnel, in
Absolutely.
open session. So that's perfectly okay.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Sorry, we'll do that on Wednesday, April 8th, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
Great.
Tim.
I mean, one last thing. I'd just like to thank Dave. I think this list reflects a lot of what you've done for us. And I think what we
Dave,
heard,
We heard your name
Lots of
mentioned.
positives. Thank you.
and I think what we heard is we want Dave. We want another Dave. So thank you very much, Dave.
We want somebody like
Yes.
Dave, so-
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Wait.
What you can do is you can take Dave's picture, those pictures that you put with a little mask on, and we can walk them in.
It'll be the Elmhurst Halloween rage for years. A question for the board. In the final round, in previous superintendent searches, we've had, some kind of a group that represents the administration, faculty, and community interviewing finalists. Is that something we're interested in doing as part of our, once we're down to 6 candidates, or once we're down to 2 candidates?
Just the two.
Yeah, it sounds like it would fit well into that, once they're down to 2 and they come to the district, walk around. I mean, maybe that could be one of the groups that they meet. Is that usually
Yes,
how it works?
that's-
Yeah.
That's often
We
the
can
way
help
it's
you with that.
structured.
I think we have to remind ourselves also about the confidentiality nature of this. There are several people in here, almost all of them are in successful positions. Several are concerned that their name be floating around that could damage their reputation in their current district, or people could lose faith in them. Oh, you're looking for another job. You must not love us anymore. So we're really cautious about that. The final 2, they know that they will be exposed at that time, that their names will be out and people will get to meet them. So that's pretty much, there's nothing you can do when you do an open process like we're doing. The 6 that are in the final group that you interview will remind you again about the need for confidentiality. We certainly don't want to damage anybody's chances, in their home district.
We certainly agree with that. So once we're down to the final 2, board members want to send me, names of people that they feel strongly should be included in that group, and I'll help put together a suggestion of a group of people, with BWP's help, certainly.
Do you want to pull it off the group that participated in the focus stuff? I mean, do you not close the loop that way?
The problem with that is we had open invitation to all the teachers to just come to any of the focus group meetings, had open invitation to the foundation. So if everybody takes those open invitations, it'd be very hard to manage. So I think you probably need to narrow the focus a little bit on some of those interview groups.
Okay, I mean, I'm just suggesting you maybe start with that group and pare it down.
Probably
but-
representatives, from.
But
some
rather
of
than
those groups.
starting with,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to be accused of selecting, the board selecting those people. I think that we've got some folks that self-selected. Yep, my 2 cents.
Yeah, we can.
We can help you with
Yeah,
all of this
Yeah,
when
so-
we come back with our
Okay.
slate.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
that's
On
fine.
the 8th, really come with some questions. We'll respond to everything,
'Cause we've
but
done
we'll give you
this-
guidance.
Yeah, we've done this different ways in different districts, so if you give us a little bit of an outline or, your thoughts, if you've narrowed your thoughts down a bit, then we can plug it in for you pretty easily. But I think that is a good suggestion about some people who've self-selected. Took some time to come out once. Just be some good possibilities there.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're
Jim.
excited.
so much.
We're
And
excited.
Jim, if you get those 2 dates, if you could just shoot an email to
Will
us.
do. I'll have
Because
a-
that will really help when we talk to our candidates. so
I'll
they-
have Ellen do a little poll.
Okay, great.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, good. Hopefully, we didn't take up too much of your time.
We're still on superintendent's communication, item C. We're just lacking a superintendent who's making his way back here. Dave, we're on item C, student fees.
I thought I was replaced, so I was just, I'm going to turn this over to Chris. We want to review student fees for the coming school year.
Yes, this is just informational item. We've talked about it a couple times now in Finance Committee. Today is the first time that we're talking about student fees with the full board. It will come to board for approval on April 28th. So the first list up here is the York fees. The only change that we have at York is that we have an increase in the cost of the cap and gown. So that fee is going from $26 to $27, an increase of $1. That is the only change proposed at this time for York High School. On the pre-K through 8th grade student fees, and with these fees at the elementary, middle school level, the procedure that we use is to amortize the cost of the resources consumed or used in the classroom is how we come up with the fees. The textbooks are amortized over 6 years. And so we have an increase at the pre-K level of $1 from 70 to 71. Kindergarten, again, $1 from 120 to 121. First through fifth, the fees remain the same at 182. And at the 6 through 8 level, there is an increase, and that is related to a workbook in social studies, where the plan is for the following year for that item to become digital. So that item was more costly this year because it's only going to be used for 1 year. The last year at 6 through 8, we did change the cost structure for the middle school athletics. This year, for the first time, we have budgeted and accounted for all the different costs related to each individual middle school sport, but the year's not over, so we'll have that information for next year to take a closer look at what each sport costs per pupil. We did a budget, and we've been recording all the costs by sport this year, so we'll take a close look at that next year. But those are all the changes that we have for the student fees for next year. Any questions or discussion?
Margaret, go ahead.
One question here, and I'm just looking at the activity fee for the pre-K, and I was trying to go back up and remember the activity fee process for the high school. And I'm just thinking out loud on here now and just wondering, how it's assessed is different, and I'm wondering, can you talk a little bit about why it was assessed differently?
It's a good question. And I'll have to do some research on that. I know there are a lot more opportunities for clubs and activities at the high school level, and so it is a different animal at the high school level, and I know at that, with the activity at the high school, the fee. The $20 fee includes admission and activities, and you get to participate in as many as you want for that same fee. Where at the elementary to in middle school, it is a $10 fee per club. But the rationale for the difference, I don't have for you today.
Well, no, actually, I mean, that makes a lot of sense what you just said, how it, the different level of participation. So, and I think that's just important. To just kind of talk through. So thank you.
Anything else? And Margaret, I would agree. There are just a very high percentage of the kids, very high percentage of the kids at the high school that are involved in clubs, organizations, and sports. I think that percentage is significantly less at the middle school level. So I think it would be difficult to assess everybody the same fee in middle school. Karen, you have something?
Yeah, so with respect to that, I know that several years ago, actually more than several years ago, we instituted like a $10 per club fee at the high school, and we've moved then to just say it's $20 and you can participate in any of those clubs, and it's contained, so it's not, so it's not a per club fee as it had been in the recent past.
Anything else? We can move on?
Yeah, actually, the next two items are going to be in the consent agenda later on in the agenda, but we wanted to pull these two items and have a discussion on both of these. One is, the first one that Chris is going to talk about is a regular transportation service bid. We put out our transportation services out to bid this year, so we want to go through that process. the rubric and how we arrived at a recommendation that you'll see in the consent agenda under C, under consent. So with that, Chris?
As Dave said, this was the third year of our contract with Lakeview, with our regular education transportation. We bid this out. We received 4 bids, 2 of which were no bid responses. So we had a bid from First Student and a bid from Lakeview. And First Student was our lowest responsible bidder. And we also went through they met all of our specifications in our RFP that we put together, and it was very thorough and complete. It met our standards for what we were looking for, and so we are recommending First Student tonight in the consent agenda.
John?
Could you explain the one exhibit, regular transportation cost review? It says calculated using 2013-2014 data. Is that data the number of buses, number of runs, then applied to a rate? Is that what that's intended to say?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Routes, charters, field trips, based on that data applied with the new rates.
And how were the other 2 bids non-responsive? Or determined to be non-responsive?
They
Do you know the
submitted a
nature
letter
of-
that said no bid.
Oh, they just withdrew.
Yeah.
Got it.
Margaret, you look like I knew.
Right. And I know this RFP was very detailed and had the ability to outline by route what the expectations were, and that's perfect. I'm wondering were there other components, particularly on service, that were considered during the bid, or was there information in the RFP that would talk about service processes or service checks?
Yes, and First Student has a tremendous amount of experience. We actually had a consultant help us to write the RFP to make sure that we were considering those parts of service. One of the areas where we really want to improve on is communication. Communication, particularly when we have bus issues related to construction or traffic or weather, or for whatever reason that we want to do a better job of communicating. And there's First Student has some really nice options related, or not options, but they're including in their service is a GPS system that we'll be able to see where our buses are from our desk to know, and that's really something that we haven't had the ability to. It seemed like our technology prior was just phone call, and then it seemed like it was too late then to get it out to parents, where now we're going to be able to in real time see where our buses are, and that's very important. I think, Dave and I have talked about the last 3 years, that the communication piece, we're going to have problems. We're going to have buses that are late, but it's just, that's one area we want to improve. We want to be able to get it out to parents. We want parents to be able to know if our buses are late, where the buses are, when they're going to be there, that sort of thing.
Is that opportunity to track buses available to parents and students, or not that developed yet?
There is a parent portal, and we're hoping to get that online. They're testing it this year. First Student is using it right now, at Stevenson High School. I think it's an app on the phone where people can see where the buses are. Our focus initially is gonna be the transition and making sure that, because it's gonna be a new company, sometimes new drivers, it could be new drivers. It's always difficult in the first week or two where the drivers are learning their routes, because the routes change a little bit every year. So initially, we're going to focus on just providing bus service and trying to get the kids to school. But in the long run, we're definitely going to try and get that parent portal and get the parents the ability to see where the buses are also. That would really be fantastic.
Just the ability, though, for us to know where the buses are is going to be a huge improvement, because then we have emergency phone systems we can utilize. We can call the parents ahead of time and say, hey, we got a breakdown on a bus. Bus is going to be running late coming home. That relieves a lot of parents just to get that phone call. But hopefully, as Chris said, it would be really slick if parents could track their child's bus every day on their app, so that bus didn't pull up on time, you can pull your app up and say, oh yeah, it's 3 minutes later, it's down on York, but it's on its way. That would be a huge advantage for us with parent satisfaction on our bus transportation system. And it really comes down to parent satisfaction. We want parents to be satisfied on how we're transporting students, and if we have problems, that we're communicating to them, and that's been a difficult situation in the last 3 years.
We're definitely going to be spending a lot of time with, if the board approves and the first student is awarded the contract, we're going to work closely with them and talk to them about this technology. Some of the other things is they have, you can use some of this technology to track, on-time percentage, and use some metrics to track how we're doing as far as performance. And we didn't have that ability at all, anything like that in the last contract, but we're excited about that.
John?
What sort of transition program do you go to before that first day happens? I mean, what sort of things do you do ahead of time? Is there a dry run the day before? Is there something like that?
There is a dry run. We'll be talking with the bus company a lot. I mean, the first step is to recruit drivers over the summer, so they have drivers and they have the buses. That's their first step. But we'll be working them a lot to understand our students and our routes. But our busing is difficult. The way our bell schedule is not ideal for the quality of the bus services and the parents. When we have elementary getting out at 3 o'clock, and we have the high school getting out at 3:06, and the middle school getting out at 3:25, that bell schedule is not ideal. It doesn't work well to have quality bus service in an efficient bus service. It's just not set up that way. For 3 o'clock, 3:06, 3:25, that does not give a lot of time for a bus to go out and come back and then do a next tier. It's just not conducive to that. And a lot of times the York Athletic Department, they're upset about getting buses for driving their student athletes. And they get out at 3:06 at York. And then they obviously would like their bus there to get to Barron's Park or wherever they're going. But those buses are out on routes taking kids home, or they're doing middle school routes or elementary school routes. Those are peak times for the bus company. So it's very difficult the way our bell schedule is laid out to provide high quality busing and add efficient. I mean, we've talked about the 3-tier. We know that would result in big savings for the district, but we don't do it, and so we end up with the current structure that we have now.
The other thing we did last time when we started with Lakeview, and we'll probably do it again, is we invited, once we had all the bus drivers secured, we invited the bus drivers in for a luncheon with our principals. And we talked about how we were going to support the bus drivers, what our expectations were in supporting them for student discipline on the bus. We had the principals get to know some of their bus drivers on the route. So I thought that was very valuable to have that face-to-face and let the bus drivers know they had our support. We wanted them to be kind. We wanted them to be greeting students in a positive way. But if they had a problem with students, they need to know also that we didn't want problems on the bus. It's too important that these bus drivers who are driving for safety not be disrupted by other students, and we wanted them to know that we would support them. So that's something we will probably do again, and I thought that was a positive outcome. We'll just order more food last time because we ran out.
Yeah, and we'll have the cameras on the buses, and we put in the specs that we need a 24-hour turnaround time on being for the bus company to get to our administrators to be able to view the videos. Where in the last contract, sometimes we waited a week or 2 weeks before we got the videos back. So that's another area where we think we're going to get some improvement.
I just want to say, I wanted to thank you for this discussion, because I think it's really important. Obviously, maybe it goes back to the idea that we have limited finances and high expectations. And rightly so, because the safety of our children, that's our first and primary goal. So we're working to try to stay within a budget, but we also need to talk about, kind of some of the service and safety and those other issues. So thank you for discussing those.
I just want to know if Mr. Welton expects to be riding the buses as frequently as he has in the last few months.
I hope not, but we'll wait and see. If I have to, I will.
All right, shall we move on?
That might be one of our criteria for success, how many times. We'll baseline Chris this year, and then we'll compare. Our next item, we will also want to just talk briefly about, we have miscellaneous transportation, and this is mostly related to cab service. We have a lot of students that go to specialized programs, that it's not efficient for us to hire a bus, and so we have put out cab service bids. So
This was, we are piggybacking on a bid that was done, or where we cooperatively participated in a bid that SACIT did. We have a contract for special ed busing, which is with Cottage Hill. So this is just the cab piece, and so we participated in that bid. We piggybacked and from on their bid, and so we benefited from that. And the bid, the contract is with Septran. I believe we have 7 students that take cabs daily, and so that's who this is. This contract will apply to. We will continue to use 303 cab for just if we have a individual need for a cab on an individual basis.
Just an explanation for folks, so the need for that cab service, just give a little facts to the matter.
Absolutely. There are some students whose needs are so significant that the level of support that they require can often interfere in the transportation as well. Those students are often in some of the private therapeutic day placements. Sometimes it's a placement where we only have one student attending, and the cab becomes a better way to transport the student. Often it is the student's individual specific needs that are so complex, they require that level of transportation that they can't even be with other students. And so this is a route that we go. As Chris said, I think right now we have 7 students that have required that.
Thank you for that explanation. I just knew the mention of the cab without an explanation might be a problem. So, thank
It's
you.
not because they don't like the bus.
No, trust me. I knew there was a good reason.
Anything else? Okay. That's the.
Yeah, and again, this item is on your consent agenda this evening.
Next is the approval of board meeting minutes from February 20th, 2015, February 24th, 2015, and March 10th, 2015. Are there any revisions to those minutes that you'd like to submit? John?
Yeah, I apologize for not getting this to you, Ellen. I just didn't get a chance to look at them until today. On page 4 of March 10, I asked a question in my usual very clear fashion, and I apologize if it was a little muddled, but it says, Mr. McDonough asked if gifted students need an IEP like they do at the elementary level, and I just would like to just modify that to reflect the question was really whether gifted students could benefit from an individualized program similar to an IEP. And I can send you that language, Ellen, unless you, and I apologize not getting it to you sooner.
Anything else? Then we'll let those minutes stand as revised by Mr. McDonough. All right? Next is board committee reports. We've had one committee meet, the Finance and Operations Committee. Mr. Bloom.
Well, good news, we covered most of this already, so this ought to be pretty quick. February financial report, Chris, nothing to report on plan on budget. We talked about student fees. Insurance is insurance committee business. We were just getting an update. Transportation, we just talked about. Technology plan will be coming to the board table. We just reiterated that we were waiting to see it. In summer projects, there are 4 bids on the superintendent's consent agenda for 4 different pieces of the projects, and I think that they total about $900,000. Now, I don't know, Chris, rather than pull those, can we just have a quick, I just wanted to make the board aware of, I know we did this in committee, and I may be remiss in not of having that percolated up, was there was a budget to spend $1.5 million this coming summer on projects. It's still that budget. These line items, some of them came in above budget, and Frank has made some changes to the plan in order to keep within that $1.5 million. I would just like to ask Frank to come just give us the 3-second overview of the changes that you made, just so everybody's up to speed before we bid on these. These are a lot of money.
Sure, Chris, not a problem. As Chris said, we had been working on an assumed budget of a little over $1.5 million for capital projects this summer. 2 things happened. One, we had some increase in scope on the weatherproofing and tuck pointing at Bryan and Madison because some areas that we got into are in a little worse condition than anticipated. And then the second thing driving costs up a little bit is for the first time in 6 to 8 years, we just saw bids coming higher than they have been. We've gotten pretty used to flat construction costs because of the economy and everything, and we're actually building in Illinois again, and we're seeing some of the lag in pricing finally coming in through the bids. Contractors have been having increased costs for their materials and labor for a number of years and having to swallow that from their profits because of the lack of work. They're not as hungry this year. So with that said, our bids came in at a little over $1.8 million, so $1,817,889. After a brief conversation, I decided to look at what it would look like to modify the scope to return that to the vicinity of the original budget. So what we've decided to do is on the weatherproofing masonry, we're going to take Jefferson portion of the project, which is not as in bad a shape as Madison and Bryan, and defer that for a year. We'll look at the 10-year budget and rework it so that work can get done next year. Second piece is some of the masonry and brick washing that was in the bid for the restoration companies was taken out of the scope. We're going to do that final wash with in-house personnel using the specs and the products directed to us by Structure Tech, who was the design on the project. And then the last area we found some savings was by working through the RFP with Train for controls and then looking at a wireless alternative for the controllers that saves us the controllers are more expensive, but the labor for pulling wires to the devices that we're addressing is eliminated, and that results in a net savings. So those three changes altogether returned us to a current level of $1,577,080.90. So we're in the vicinity of the original budget. We'll probably work in the piece by piece, more detailed look at what we do need and don't need to do on the masonry project to get us the rest of the way to budget, but those will be small changes that we would do through change order on the fine-tuning level. And the goal is to bring it back in budget for the work for the summer. So that's kind of a summary where we're at. That's kind of what I've shared over the course of a couple meetings with the Finance and Operations Committee. And Chris had asked if I could share that with the board as a whole. So, any questions? All right. Sure.
That everything? Any questions for Finance and Operations? Hearing none, we'll move on to the superintendent's consent agenda, items A through O. Does anyone want to remove any of those items? Hearing none, then I need a motion.
I move that we approve the superintendent's consent agenda, items A through O.
I second that motion.
Moved by Shannon, seconded by Karen. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mrs. Walsh?
Mrs. Ebner,
Yes.
Mrs. Stufen,
Yes.
Dr. Harrell,
Yes.
Mr. Bloom,
Yes.
Mr. McDonough,
Yes.
Mrs. Bastido,
Yes.
Mr. Collins.
Yes. That's 7 ayes, no nays. The superintendent's agenda passes as submitted. Next on our agenda is action on closed session items. So I need a motion for item A, please.
Yes. I make a motion that the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing the honorable dismissal of teachers.
Second? Thank you. Thank you. Moved by Margaret, seconded by Shannon. Is there any discussion on this item? Superintendent Pernod or Jim can just ask for just a bit so everybody understands what and why we're required to do this and who this applies to.
The honorable dismissal notices that are given to all part-time teachers who did not have tenured rights before as full-time teachers before becoming part-time teachers. It's required through Senate Bill 7, the new legislation law that went into effect regarding how teachers are retained. What happens is every teacher is evaluated. If that evaluation has a rating by the legislation of excellent, proficient, needs improvement, or unsatisfactory, those ratings then place teachers into different groups 1, 2, 3, and 4. Teachers that are placed in group 1 are the first ones to be dismissed. However, this year we were actually able to retain virtually all of our full-time staff, even if they were first-year teachers, and only release those who were on part-time status with 2 exceptions. So this is actually a requirement. We have, they do not have recall rights, but we are able to immediately, actually upon board action this evening, based on the staffing plan, tomorrow those positions can be posted, and many of those individuals will be rehired.
Thank you. And this is an annual event, and I just want to make sure the public understands, and the teachers that we're dismissing understand that They're being dismissed because the law requires that we dismiss part-time teachers. My understanding is otherwise, we also would not, if they're a .6 teacher, we would not have the opportunity to employ them as anything other than a .6 teacher next year. Is that understanding still correct?
That understanding is correct with one caveat, which would be we could not just turn around and hire them as a full-time teacher next year if they were a part-time teacher without going through the process of releasing them and then rehiring them in a full-time capacity.
And as you say, you expect the majority of these teachers all to be hired right back.
I know that many of the part-time teachers, because of how our staffing works with some of the special sections that we run in different departments, that we already have recommendations pending that will be posted for their rehire.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make that clear to everyone because there's questions about this every year. All right, any further discussion? Mrs. Walsh, do we need a roll call on this?
I believe you do.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Harrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ebner?
Yes.
Mr. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. Stufen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bastido?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes, that's 7 ayes, no nays. That motion passes. The next item on the agenda, or the next item under action on closed session items, item B, have a resolution on that, please.
I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing notice of dismissal to non-tenured teachers other than final year probationary teachers.
Second, anyone? Thank you. Moved by Emily, seconded by Shannon. Any discussion? Mrs. Walsh?
Mrs. Bastido?
Yes.
Mrs. Ebner?
Yes.
Dr. Harrell?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Mrs. Stufen?
Yes.
Mr. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes, that's 7 ayes, no nays. That motion passes. Next on the agenda is board communications. Anyone have anything? I have one item. Go ahead.
I had a quick question for Dave and then a stormwater update.
Okay.
Dave, I was wondering about the 5 essentials survey. Did we get the minimum percentage of parents?
Yes, we did.
Woo, that's good.
So our pleas at the last minute did pay off. So we have over 20% in all of our buildings. So we will have parents, students, and staff data to use in our improvement process. So that was good news. Went right up to the last hour.
Good, because last year we didn't get to that level. So that's great news. Okay. Okay. John and I met with the city, so I want to give you an update on where we're at with the stormwater project. So we're focusing, as we always have been, on the Madison School project. We talked about this project as more of a shorter-term solution to help residents on Washington Street. It's not a long-term solution that's going to help Southwest Elmhurst, but it will help Washington Street. So we discussed different terms that would have to be part of an intergovernmental agreement. We talked about the issue of termination, if we need that property to deliver education in the future. We also talked about if we do, if we need to use that land for education, then there would have to be an alternative plan from the city to put that water somewhere else, if we need to reclaim that land. We also talked about the need for an ADA accessible playground that would be part of an intergovernmental agreement. We talked about terms about how often this detention would be used, and it turns out that this project, from the city's perspective, would store stormwater for 5-year storms or greater. We had talked previously about more 50 to 100-year storms. So that's not the case. So it would be the more frequent storms, 5 years and plus. So that was a new development. So we talked about performance standards. We need to develop standards of how often this would really have water, or so we're talking about terms for an intergovernmental agreement. It's still in draft form, and we need to meet with an engineering firm to help flush out some of these standards, and that will happen in early April. Is there anything you want to add?
Just a couple things to highlight. I think it's really important to have an alternative plan because as we enter the strategic planning process, we don't know what the needs of our needs for that land will be. And the strategic process will allow the community to decide when there is a school need for that property. The city assured us that the termination provision was something they would look closely at. We didn't hear an immediate objection to it, but they understand that we need to use that property ultimately for school purposes. And indeed, it turns out there is an ultimate plan that involves a different alternative. And our idea is simply to accelerate the time frame in which that alternative would be done, and we'd ask the city to identify what that alternative is before we allow the use of school property for stormwater. Secondly, regarding that, how long the facility will have water, and I think this could probably be integrated in the performance standards. There is something in the city's exhibit that was at the open house on stormwater that indicated that all stormwater would be drained out of the basin within 24 hours. I guess 24 hours after the rain stops. But I guess we will look for the engineer to help us design performance standards so that the expectations that everybody seems to have as to how the two uses can coincide actually happens in the real world.
Any questions? I have a few. I keep hearing that this is a short-term solution. I've never heard the long-term solution. Is there one?
There is a plan, but there haven't been dates attached to it of what year it'd be completed. So there is a list, but dates are to be determined.
So this could go on indefinitely?
Well, we would have to get more detail around the timing.
It would last until the district would terminate.
Okay.
As I'm saying.
Are there specified reasons that the district can and cannot terminate? I thought our stipulation was upon the majority vote of the school board, we could terminate the agreement. Okay. Are we still operating we told the city, and the city agreed, that we were not going to spend educational dollars on this process of getting a legal agreement in place, getting intergovernmental agreement, and also asking for some engineering consulting help because the city has asked us to put specifications on the performance of this project. And to do that, we need some engineering help. We still operating under this $10,000 budget they've given us that we have to spend that, bill it, collect it, and then we ask for another $10,000? Is that what we're still operating under?
That's enough funds for now. We can have a thorough review from the attorney and the engineer and stay within that budget.
Okay. All right. And within that agreement, the city is assuming all the liability for anything that would happen as a result of storing water on that land. Is that still part of the agreement?
We met with the attorney today and we went over some of those provisions and we, had a good discussion about some of those items, but the idea is that if the stormwater comes on our land, they have the liability that goes with it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Very helpful. Anything else on that? Any other board communications? I have, all right, I just want to express a happy birthday to two very important people. The first is Karen Stufen, who's spending her birthday at a school board meeting. And the second is to Nancy Bloom, because without Nancy Bloom keeping control of things in the Bloom household, we could not, our community could not have the services of Chris Bloom. So Nancy, thank you very much. And anything else? Around a happy birthday, are we singing? Later, we'll sing later. All right.
Our meeting on April 18th is, it was my understanding, it's 8 a.m., 8 a.m. to 12.
It says 12, but yeah, it should
And then
be
I've
8 a.m.
seen it 6 o'clock too, so it's 8 a.m.
8
to
a.m.
12 p.m. and it's Saturday, the 18th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you might want to keep 8 to 1 on your calendar there, Karen. Sorry to kill your Saturday. It goes with the territory. All right. Nothing else on board communications? Then let me quickly review the upcoming meetings. As we spoke of earlier with our search firm BWP, closed session meeting on Wednesday, April 8th at 6 p.m. Monday, April 13th is another closed session meeting beginning at 6 p.m., superintendent candidate interviews. Tuesday, April 14th is our next regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting at 7:30 p.m. in this room. Thursday, April 16th is a Performance Management Committee meeting at 7 p.m. Saturday, April 18th at 8 a.m., some more superintendent candidate interviews. And then Monday, April 20th is the next Learning and Teaching Committee meeting at 7 p.m. And then Tuesday, April 28th is the two Board of Education regularly scheduled meetings from now. So April 28th at 7:30 p.m. There's nothing else on the agenda. Therefore, this meeting is adjourned.